Hi, this is Sam from Sam's Dream Themes, and today I'm going to show you guys how to edit a person or people into this scene right here. So I've included a few things to make your life a lot easier. One of them is a set of actions, and if you haven't already installed the actions, they're going to be attached with this order. So you will open the attachment, and then you would go here. Actually, you would go to Window Actions, and that will open up. You probably won't have these actions here. These are mine. And you're going to go to this button up here, Load Actions, and you'll go to wherever they are for your computer, probably in Downloads, and then you'll just double click on them, and that will open them up. And now I've got an extra set here that I don't need. So when you want to actually see the actions, you open the folder by going to this little arrow right here, and all the actions are hiding inside. So that's the first thing we want to do. The next thing we want to do is we want to add our person to the scene. You're going to want the person cut out for this. So if you have not done a cutout of a person, or if you don't know how, I do have a tutorial for that on my YouTube page. And if you just go to the page, it will show you cutting somebody out with the pen tool. That is my preferred method, although there are definitely others that you can use. So I'm going to go to File, Place Linked, and I'm selecting this picture right here. This picture is a little bit of a tricky one. It's nice and sharp, which I love, but there's lots of magentas and blues inside of her shirt. The colors are a little bit dull. It's a little bit of a problem, and you might find this if somebody sends you a picture to work with, like a cell phone picture, for example, that it's not the most ideal looking picture. There might be some problems with it, like this one, and I'm going to show you how to deal with that. So I want my Show Transform controls on here, and I'm going to size it down. And I'm kind of going to think about how big she would be compared to Santa if she were standing up. And she's going to be that little bit smaller because I'm going to put her back here in front of the blackboard, and I want to make her eyes connecting up so that she is looking at him. And if I put her beside here, and I think about that height, that should be fine. So I will put her here where she can be looking at Santa, and I'll hit Enter. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this background by hitting Command J. And I'm going to go over to the Dodge and Burn tools. Do not use these Dodge and Burn tools unless you've made a copy of the layer, because what I'm doing here is permanent. Try this, Burn. And highlights. And you can see already it's getting a little bit darker underneath her. And I just want it underneath. I want a contact shadow. I don't want a lot of deep shadows under her. Then I will go to Midtones. And I'm going just under there. And finally, I'll go to Shadows, and I will run that under. And if you're not sure how it looks, you can turn this on and off and see. I think the shadow is a little bit strong, so I can just go to opacity here and lower it. And I am happy with that. So I have her in position. I like what is happening here. So I'm going to, number one, save this as a new file. Now, some people like to work completely with layers and everything is layered. I often do that, but for what I'm doing today, fixing up the girl, I'm actually going to do something crazy, and flatten it. I know I've got everything the way I want it. So I've included for you some things to help you a lot with getting her color right. So if you look in here, I have these color correctors, and there's a blue reduction. I'm going to run it by pressing play right there. And I'm going to grab a paintbrush, a white brush at 100% opacity and 100% flow. I'm going to make sure that the hardness is down to 0, so it's a nice soft brush. And she is pretty blue, so I'm going to run this over her, just the blue part, so her shirt and her face. This is going to warm it up. I'm going to leave her blue jeans alone because I like them, but I am going to run this over her feet as well. So basically everything that I want to make less blue except for the blue jeans. And I'll flatten that. I am also going to, next we'll work on her skin actually. So I'm going to go to Sugar Glow Skin Tones and I'm going to press play. And this is going to open a whole bunch of tones for any skin color. Sometimes I can see these colors and sometimes I can't. So they start from darkest at the top and they go to lightest with warm glow towards the bottom. There's also cool off and a blush. And this was because I could not find very many different skin tones out there for actions, and it really frustrated me. So for most Caucasian people, I find Pinky Peach works pretty well. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to put this at 50% or close to it, and I'm going to paint this on the skin. And this will save you a lot of time for having to correct skin tones when you can just paint it on. Okay, and I'll just leave above the eyes alone. I'm also going to go to Warm Glow, and I'm just going to put this on the brightest parts of her, and we will do a little bit more brightening later. But this is a little bit of a highlighter, and it will help blend things in well. Okay, and I'll flatten that. The next thing we'll do is the skin smoother. So we'll run that. Sometimes they take a minute to run. So it says clone and heal here. So if you have anything that you want to do with the skin with the spot healing tool, it looks like a little band-aid. I'm just going to go in on this spot and get rid of any obvious marks. If there's any, sometimes kids bump into things, they've got some bruises, food on their faces, at least mine do, always. Okay, there we go. Then I'm going to go to the part where it says soften here. I will use a white brush at 51% is great. And I'm just going to go over the skin. And this will keep the texture in the skin, but it will soften other parts. And so this is kind of, it's not a hardcore smoother. You're still going to keep that detail. But you can see it working along here as well. And if you're not sure, you can just go and turn it on and off, and you will see that it's smoothed nicely. I see something here first I'm going to flatten. I was fiddling around with this image beforehand, so that's why this is here. It will not be on the image that you actually purchase. The next thing I think I'll do is I have the color tones right now. You can see that she's a lot brighter than she was before. I do see some magenta in her shirt still, and I want that shirt to be white. So I will run the magenta reduction with a white soft brush. 50% is probably good. I can always turn it up if I want. And there might be some red in there that I need to take care of. If the magenta action isn't taking care of it, it might not be magenta, it might be red. A little bit of blueness and magenta in these shoes here, and I would like it to be more of a classic red, so I'm just going to tap on those and take out the magenta that might be in there. Flatten. I will run the red. The red is also great for areas, if you get close, I did notice a little bit of redness around her nose. And there's going to be a cast from the pen on her skin there too. Sometimes I like to run it over eyes as well to make sure that there's no redness there. In the creases of fingers is always a place where there might be some red. And I'm just going through and making sure that I get the red off of this shirt right here. So not the best quality picture. It was taken in dark conditions, and I can see that because there's some green on it. But this is what I was given, and sometimes you just roll with it. And again, these actions can fix a lot of that. The final action I'm going to run on here is one called the Nutcracker. And you can see it kind of warms it up a little bit. It changes your tones around a little bit, and it blends it up. One last thing you can do with your image is you might want to dodge and burn a little bit more. So this image has been dodged and burned, not dodged and burned. It has a lot of contrast already. What I'm looking for is, do the darks in this image match the intensity of the darks in places like Santa's robe, in the reindeer's ears, in the shadow areas? And are the lights textured, or do they need a little bit more darkness? And this does help give a little bit more of a painterly look as well. And if you would like to do this, you can run dodge and burn, click play, open this folder here, and you can paint on, so it says grab a white brush, a soft white brush at 100% opacity and 5% flow. I mean, it can be 6%, it will be fine. So I'm going in and I'm just brightening the places, again, the cheeks, tip of the nose, any place that would pop out. And if you wanted to make the Santa and reindeer more painterly, this would be an option as well. So just going over the areas that have highlights already, not trying to change what's already there. Hopefully you have followed my guide for getting good pictures. One of them includes taking pictures in neutral lighting. And so the good thing about this, even though it was taken in a little bit of darkness, the light is pretty neutral, and that is a big help. So there's that. Then I'm going to switch to this box here, and I'm going to go to the black brush. Same thing, soft brush, 100% opacity, 5% flow. And now I'm going to go into the shadow areas. And this will be what separates your picture from something average to something that, again, looks more painterly, has more pop. I could do the bow in here as well. And I do want some texture in this shirt. Again, I don't want it to be completely blown out. And if you're not sure how that's going to look, you can just click on the dodge and burn here and see what you got. And that does make a nice difference. If you think you went too intense, you can just go to the opacity here and turn it down. The final thing you can do is you can add reindeer antlers if you wish. I got my antlers from Pixel Squid, so I'm going to go to flatten. Pixel Squid is a company that provides 3D movable images for you. And it comes with a plugin for Photoshop. And so if I went, I think I put it in Christmas too. They have a reindeer somewhere. Here we go. So I can click on this guy. And right now it's low resolution. I'll change that to high resolution and I'll turn the shadows off. And Pixel Squid does take a couple of seconds to load, but in my opinion, it's definitely worth it. I think it costs about $9 to $10 a month. You might have a different source for antlers if you would like, but I find this is a good source just for getting things quick. I do sell overlays of these reindeer that I took pictures of as well, so that might be a possibility for you if you would like her antlers to match one of the other reindeer's antlers. But what I like about this is I can kind of get the right angle right away. And so I'm going to make this smaller. And that looks pretty good. I'll hit enter. I'm going to put a mask on this, and I'm going to double click right here, invert, okay. And I'm going to use a white brush at 100% opacity and 100% flow. And I'm going to go in and paint those antlers back in. This one I'm going to leave behind her head. And this one I'm going to paint right on. And I will go back and use a black brush to erase. And you might kind of have to fiddle with it until you get it right, but the soft brush will help blend it in with the hair. And you can decide to add, for example, go to hue saturation. I'm going to clip it down. And I'm going to move this over a bit so it gets a little bit redder. And then I'm going to turn the saturation down, and I'm going to make this darker. And actually, yeah, I want the antlers to be nice and dark. And there we go. I will flatten this, and you can save it, and your composite is complete.